I stand in the doorway of my own master bedroom, completely frozen. The afternoon sun spills across the polished hardwood floor, illuminating a scene of sheer, profound betrayal that makes the breath catch in my throat. I watch my own mother, Rowena, carelessly tossing my expensive silk blouses into cheap cardboard boxes. She does not even notice me standing there in the hallway. She is on speakerphone with my older brother, Lachlan, her voice dripping with absolute entitlement as she meticulously packs away my life. She tells him not to worry, assuring him that because I am a single woman, I simply do not need a house this massive. She promises him that he and his lazy wife can move their heavy oak furniture into my master bedroom by the middle of next month. Lachlan's careless, arrogant laughter echoes from the phone speaker, a sound that makes the blood in my veins turn entirely to ice. They thought because I was unmarried and quiet, my home somehow belonged to the entire family. They thought I was weak prey, completely trapped in their snare of familial guilt and endless obligation. They thought my silence was a sign of total surrender. They were absolutely wrong. Thank you for watching video. Before I take you back there, do me one small favor. Take a second to like and subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is where you are. It helps more than you know. My name is Blythe. I am 45 years old, and I work as a freelance interior designer in the rainy, lush suburbs of Portland, Oregon. For the past 15 years, I have shaped spaces for other people, turning empty rooms and cold walls into warm, beautiful sanctuaries. But the most important sanctuary I ever built was my own. After a lifetime of living in cramped apartments and working 14-hour days, I finally saved enough money to purchase a gorgeous, sprawling craftsman home at the edge of the city. It had a massive wrap-around porch, towering cedar trees in the backyard, and a kitchen bathed in natural light. It was not just a piece of real estate. It was the physical manifestation of my independence, paid for with my own sweat, my own tears, and my own absolute determination. I paid every single mortgage bill. I painted every single wall. My mother, Rowena, is 68 years old. From the moment I was born, she made it very clear what my role in the family was meant to be. I was the invisible workhorse, the reliable background character whose only purpose was to support the main cast. My brother, Lachlan, is 48 years old. He is the golden child, the undisputed king of our family empire. Lachlan has spent his entire adult life bouncing from one failed business venture to another, racking up massive debts and leaning heavily on our mother to bail him out of every single consequence. His wife, Kestrel, is 46 years old. Kestrel is a woman whose sheer jealousy dictates every move she makes. She despised the fact that I, a single woman with no children, owned a beautiful home while she and Lachlan were constantly being evicted from cramped rental apartments across the city. For years, I played the role of the dutiful daughter. I hosted the holiday dinners, I paid for the groceries when Lachlan claimed his bank account was overdrawn, and I kept my mouth shut when my mother praised his non-existent accomplishments. But 3 weeks before I discovered the cardboard boxes in my bedroom, the masquerade began to crack. It started during one of our traditional Sunday dinners. The roast chicken was still warm on the dining table, the scent of rosemary and garlic filling the air. I was in the kitchen washing the good porcelain plates when I heard a strange, sharp metallic click coming from the living room. I walked quietly down the hallway and peered around the corner. Kestrel was standing in the center of my meticulously curated living room, holding a bright yellow tape measure. She was stretching it across the vast expanse of the wall beneath my favorite bay window. My mother was sitting on the sofa, sipping her wine with a look of complete approval. Kestrel snapped the tape measure back into its plastic casing and sighed loudly. She muttered that this massive living room was utterly wasted on a single woman, and that a family with children could make so much better use of the square footage. The mask was slipping completely. I stood in the shadows, my heart pounding a heavy rhythm against my ribs as I watched the predators circling their prey. Lachlan walked into the room, grinning like a king surveying his newly conquered lands. When I stepped out of the shadows, they all froze. Kestrel quickly shoved the tape measure into her purse, offering a fake, sugary smile. She claimed she was just admiring the architecture. My mother immediately jumped to her defense, repeating the exact same phrase she had used to justify a lifetime of manipulation. "You have to share your blessings with the family, Blythe," she said, her voice laced with a thick layer of toxic guilt. I did not scream. I did not throw them out into the cold rain. I simply nodded, my face a mask of complete indifference, while my mind began to race. That night, after they finally left, I walked out to the front porch to check the spare key I always kept hidden beneath the large blue hydrangea bush. It was entirely gone. The brass key was missing from its usual resting place. A profound sense of dread washed over me. I realized in that terrifying, crystal-clear moment that my mother had stolen it. She had stolen the key to my sanctuary to give to her golden child. The next morning, I called a premium locksmith. I did not tell a single soul. I had every single deadbolt and handle replaced with high-security smart locks. I threw the old metal keys straight into the neighborhood dumpster. 2 days later, Lachlan stopped by my house unannounced. He claimed he needed to borrow my heavy-duty power drill for a project at his rental apartment. I let him inside, pouring him a cup of hot black coffee while he went to use my downstairs restroom. He carelessly left his expensive smartphone sitting face up on my kitchen island. I was wiping down the granite countertops when the screen suddenly lit up with a bright notification. I did not touch the device. I did not have to. The text was large enough to read from a distance, and the words displayed on that glowing screen utterly shattered whatever remaining illusion of family I still held onto. The message was from my mother. It read, "I have packed 2 of her boxes today while she was out. Keep pushing the power of attorney paperwork before she changes her mind." A second later, a previous message from Lachlan appeared on the screen as the thread updated. He had written, "Just corner her this weekend. She is soft. She will surrender the house to the eldest son eventually." My entire world completely crumbled. My own mother was sneaking into my home, using the stolen spare key she thought still worked, packing my personal belongings into boxes to slowly edge me out of my own property. They were plotting a hostile takeover of my life. I reached into my apron pocket, pulled out my own phone, and snapped 3 clear, high-resolution photographs of his screen. When Lachlan walked back into the kitchen, humming a cheerful tune, I handed him the power drill with an absolutely icy smile. I watched him drive away, knowing it would be one of the last times he ever stood on my driveway. Sometimes, the people who share your blood are merely predators waiting for you to fall asleep. I realized that my kindness was never seen as love, it was only ever seen as an open door for their sheer greed. That was the exact moment the family dynamic utterly vanished, replaced by a cold, calculating war. The very next morning, I took a leave of absence from my design firm. I did not go to a therapist to cry about my broken childhood. I drove straight downtown to the towering glass office of an elite real estate attorney named Vance. Vance was a 55-year-old man whose icy, professional demeanor perfectly matched the coldness rapidly taking over my own heart. I sat across his heavy mahogany desk and laid out my arsenal. I presented my original property deed. I presented my mortgage payoff statements. I presented my bank records, and finally, I presented the printed photographs of the malicious text messages. Vance reviewed the legal documents with absolute precision, his sharp eyes scanning every single line. He looked up at me, his expression entirely serious. He stated that they had 0 legal jurisdiction over my property. He confirmed that I was the sole proprietor, holding 100% of the equity. Any attempt by my family to occupy this premises without my explicit, written consent constituted criminal trespassing and potential estate fraud. We did not hesitate. We immediately drafted a formal cease and desist order. We prepared a criminal trespass warrant, signed and stamped by the local magistrate, ready to be deployed the second they crossed the line. The sheer power of the law became my ultimate shield. The heavy vocabulary of the federal justice system replaced the soft, vulnerable language of family duty. But I knew a piece of paper would not stop my brother's towering entitlement. I needed a permanent solution. My background as an interior designer became my greatest secret weapon. I knew exactly how to stage a luxury property for an aggressive, rapid cash sale. I quietly contacted an exclusive real estate broker who specialized in wealthy, out-of-state corporate buyers. I priced my gorgeous craftsman home slightly below the current market value to guarantee an immediate transaction. The broker brought potential buyers through the house only during the specific hours I knew my mother was at her weekly bingo games and Lachlan was at his part-time job. Within 7 days, the house was entirely sold. The corporate buyer signed the federal transfer deed, wired the massive sum of cash directly into my private offshore trust account, and agreed to let me remain in the house for exactly 2 more weeks to finalize my move. During those 14 days, I packed my life away in the absolute shadows. I secured a stunning, state-of-the-art luxury high-rise apartment in the most expensive district of downtown Portland. I moved my furniture out in the dead of night, leaving just enough cheap placeholder items in the house to make it look occupied. I left the cardboard boxes my mother had packed exactly where she had left them. Saturday morning arrived with a bitter, biting chill in the autumn air. I was standing in the empty living room, holding my final overnight suitcase, waiting. Right on schedule, a massive, rusted moving truck rumbled loudly up my long gravel driveway. The heavy diesel engine shut off, and the cab doors swung open. Lachlan, Kestrel, and my mother Rowena marched proudly up to my front porch, acting exactly like untouchable royalty returning to claim their stolen throne. Lachlan confidently pulled the stolen brass key from his jacket pocket and shoved it aggressively into the front door lock. It jammed. He twisted it harder, his face turning red with sudden frustration. It did not turn. A moment later, a sleek black vehicle pulled up to the curb behind their moving truck. My elite real estate broker stepped out onto the damp grass, carrying a heavy wooden post and a large metal sign. With 3 loud, echoing strikes of a heavy mallet, she hammered a massive, bright red "Sold" sign straight into the front lawn. Lachlan spun around, his eyes wide with sheer, absolute panic. I opened the front door, my posture completely rigid, my expression utterly frozen in absolute victory. "Blythe, open this door right now," Lachlan barked, his voice cracking under the sudden weight of confusion. "What is that sign? What is going on?" I stepped out onto the porch, looking down at them from the elevated wooden steps. I did not yell. I did not cry. I simply handed him the thick manila envelope containing the legal criminal trespassing warrant and the boldly highlighted property transfer deed. I held up the blown-up, printed photographs of their plotting text messages for Kestrel and my mother to clearly see. The sheer humiliation washed over them like a freezing tidal wave. Lachlan's arrogant, untouchable facade utterly shattered right there on the concrete. His face drained entirely of color as his eyes darted from the legal federal documents to the glowing red sign on the lawn. My mother completely crumbled. She collapsed against the railing of the moving truck, covering her face as a few curious neighbors stepped out onto their sidewalks to watch the spectacle unfold. "You have to share your blessings with the family," I whispered, throwing her favorite toxic phrase right back into her face. "This house is legally sold to a corporate holding company. Step off my private property right now, or I will have the county sheriff's department arrest you for federal trespassing." The absolute silence that followed was the most beautiful sound I have ever heard in my entire life. They had absolutely no counterattack. They had no legal standing, no moral high ground, and absolutely no home to move into. They slowly climbed back into their rented moving truck, completely defeated, and drove away in utter disgrace. 6 months later, I am sitting on the expansive glass balcony of my luxury high-rise apartment in downtown Portland. The city lights shimmer and glow like a golden constellation arranged entirely for my viewing pleasure. I am completely, utterly at peace. I have a thriving business, a massive bank account, and a home where no one can ever touch my sanctuary. Meanwhile, Lachlan and Kestrel are crammed into a tiny, overpriced, moldy rental apartment on the far industrial edge of town. My mother is currently working double shifts at a local retail store just to help her golden child pay his overdue utility bills. I found absolute, profound freedom, and I bought it with the very house they tried to steal from me. True power is not found in arguing with those who fundamentally disrespect you. It is found in walking away, taking your resources with you, and letting their own staggering entitlement become their permanent, inescapable prison. Thank you for staying until the end of my story. Have you ever had to protect yourself from your own family? Tell me your story in the comments. Do not forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more true stories where justice always wins. See you next time.